Hi, it's Oral Stories. If you enjoy chilling tales inspired by real legends, hit like and subscribe. Some stories are meant to be heard in the dark. This one's about a town that forgot the sun, and the snow that remembered. Let's begin. The snow never stops. Barrow, Alaska. January, 1951. Latitude, 71 degrees north. Sunset, December 1st. Next sunrise, not for another 62 days. They told me about the darkness before I left Chicago. Said it would get in your head. Some scientists crack, others go full Jack London. But I wasn't worried. I came prepared, a box of journals, a suitcase full of flannel, and a steel thermos I swore I'd never let go cold. I was here on a grant, observing atmospheric pressure fluctuations during polar night. Simple research. Isolated, sure, but simple. Barrow was ideal, small, remote, nothing but snow and stars for miles. Just me, the wind, and the endless dark. That's what I signed up for. But from the moment the supply plane touched down on the jagged ice runway, something felt off. The pilot, a wiry man named Garrett, barely looked me in the eye as he handed me my duffel. "Don't go wandering," he muttered. "They don't like it." "Who?" I asked. But he was already back in the cockpit, firing up the engine for the return trip south. I stood there as the plane disappeared into the gray sky, leaving only a scattering of red tail light in the distance, and silence. No one came to greet me. Just wind and snow. So I hoisted my bag and followed the crude path toward the village, a smattering of low buildings huddled like survivors near the frozen shoreline. The house they assigned me was more shed than home, metal walls, no insulation, oil stove in the corner. But it had power, barely, and a shelf full of preserved meat and powdered milk. I set up my notebook by the tiny window and tried to ignore the way it vibrated when the wind howled. First night was uneventful. I scribbled down pressure readings, drank half my thermos, and tried not to count how many hours of pitch black I still had ahead. The villagers were quiet, some nodded at me, others just stared. I chalked it up to isolation. Outsiders weren't common here. Especially ones with pens and questions. There were only two people who spoke more than a sentence to me that week. Talia, the schoolteacher, maybe mid-30s, sharp eyes. Mikkel, the elder. Said nothing at first. But he watched me with a strange patience, like I was already on borrowed time. On the seventh night, it started. I was walking back from Talia's cabin. She'd invited me for reindeer stew and talked about how the kids were learning to read by lanternlight, when I noticed something strange on the path. Snow, but not white. It was faint at first. Just a dusting. Pale pink, like the sky before dawn. But the more I walked, the deeper the color became, until the flakes falling around me were unmistakably red. I wiped some on my glove, sniffed. No smell. Tasted it, bitter, metallic. Blood. My brain rejected it immediately. Must be mineral deposits in the air. Dust kicked up by distant wind. But the air was dead still. I turned to look back at the village. And in the dark, I saw figures. Not people, shapes. Tall and still, standing between the buildings. Staring. The wind whispered something through the snow, but it sounded too much like a voice. Stay warm, while you can. The next morning, I confronted Talia. I saw something last night. And the snow. She didn't look surprised. You shouldn't be out after midnight, she said. It stirs them. Who? She stirred her tea slowly. The ones who keep the sun away. I laughed. Or tried to. You mean legends? Maybe, she said, but her voice was cold. You should leave when the plane comes back. It didn't come back. 2 days later, a message crackled over the village's sole radio post. The supply route was grounded due to storm fronts. No rescue. No contact. I was trapped here, in this town of whispers and red snow. I kept journaling. Kept recording pressure levels, temperature drops, wind speed. But each night, the red snow returned. Heavier. Thicker. Soon it was ankle deep, and the villagers no longer walked outside. Children stopped going to the schoolhouse. Windows were covered. Lights flickered constantly. Then came the drawings. Talia's students, silent, blank-eyed, left me sketches. Pages covered in rough charcoal strokes. A man standing alone in the dark. A circle of people facing the ice. A red blotch above what looked like a hole in the sea. And always, always, a tall figure made of jagged lines, with no face, just darkness where a head should be. Sometimes drawn behind me. I asked Talia who it was. She only said, "Don't answer if it calls you by name." One night, I awoke to find my door open. Snow had blown in, piling on the floor. And etched into the frost on my window, from the inside, were 4 words. "You were invited here. The storm outside hasn't stopped in days." Mikkel finally spoke to me. Invited me into his home. Said he knew I had questions. He lit a lantern, poured 2 cups of melted snow water, and began to speak, not in English, but I understood. He told me of a man who came in 1881. Like me. Curious. Recording. Alone. The man saw red snow too, and when he tried to leave, the sea opened for him. But why red? I asked. Mikkel's eyes flicked to the window. Because it remembers. Tonight is the 70th anniversary of the day the man vanished. And outside, the snow falls harder than ever. Red. Thick. Hungry. I don't know if I'm the sacrifice. Or the witness. But I can hear something in the wind again. And this time, it's whispering my name. I haven't slept in 2 nights. The wind outside howls like it's alive, like it's angry. Not at the cold, but at me. I thought I came here to observe. But I see now, I was summoned. Since the red snow began, I've started hearing things. At first, it was just the whine of the wind, long, low sounds that could be mistaken for a voice if you were exhausted. But now it speaks. Sometimes just behind me. Sometimes from the wall. And once, last night, from under the floorboards. I tried to tell Talia. She wouldn't let me inside. Her door opened only a crack, and her eyes were different. Distant. Like she was staring past me. "You've stayed too long," she said. "It's inside you now." "What is?" She shut the door. No answer. I went back to my shack and found my journal soaked through. Pages torn. Scratched. Burned at the edges. And written across the inside cover, in ink that hadn't been there before. "Leave it here. Or never leave at all." I was done pretending this was scientific. I needed answers. So I returned to Mikkel. His home was dark. Not empty, just dark. The air inside was stale, thick with burnt pine and something older. Earthy, wet. He was waiting, seated on the floor, eyes closed, fingers tracing something into the frost-covered wood. I asked him again. What happened to the man in 1881? He opened his eyes slowly. He tried to speak to it, Mikkel said. He believed knowledge could save him. It cannot. I asked him what it was. He didn't answer directly. Just gestured toward the frozen sea. Later that night, I followed the gesture. It was madness to go out alone, but madness had already moved inside me. I walked to the edge of town. Past shuttered windows. Past snowbanks redder than they had any right to be. Toward the water, though here, in this dark season, the sea was nothing but a sheet of ice extending forever. That's when I saw them. A row of people, standing barefoot in the snow. Motionless. Faces turned toward the ocean. Villagers. But their mouths were open, and humming. No words. Just a low resonance, like distant thunder. I stepped closer. Snow crunching under my boots. Then the humming stopped. And they turned, all of them, and stared straight at me. No one moved. No one blinked. And then they spoke. In my voice. "Join us, Daniel." I ran. Back through the storm, into my shack, bolting the door behind me. But I wasn't alone. My radio, dead for a week, clicked on. White noise first. Then static. Then a voice. "We remember the sun, and we do not forgive." The snow against the window pulsed red. Like it was breathing. I didn't sleep. I wrote, feverishly, trying to stay sane. The next morning, I don't know if it was morning, honestly, I woke to find a package outside my door. A book. Frozen stiff, wrapped in cracked leather. Inside, handwritten pages, yellowed and brittle. The name on the first page. Dr. Arnold Greaves. January 1881, Barrow, Alaska. I tore through it. Pages filled with diagrams of snowflakes shaped like eyes. Descriptions of the same red snow. Identical voices. The same hallucinations. He even described Mickle, though younger. One passage stopped me cold. They call it the winter hunger. An echo from before warmth. It waits beneath the ice, and every 70 years, it needs a body, to keep the sun away. That night, I followed the red snow again, deeper this time, to the edge of the sea. The villagers were there, but different. Their eyes were hollow. Their skin pale, almost translucent, like the blood had drained out to color the storm. They began to chant. Words I didn't recognize, but my bones did. The ice cracked. A black fissure split open in the sea. And something moved beneath it. Massive. Slow. Watching. The villagers turned to me as one. Mickle stood at their center. He spoke only once. "You've already been chosen." I ran. Again. But this time, the wind followed me. It howled with my voice. I stumbled back into my shack, slammed the door. And there, waiting on the table, was a photo I'd never seen. Me. Standing at the sea. Surrounded by villagers. Smiling. Except, I hadn't been there yet. Not like that. Not in daylight. Something's wrong with time here. The sun isn't just absent, it's been taken. And whatever lies beneath the ice, it doesn't want to give it back. I don't know how long I've been here anymore. The calendar says February 12th. But the snow still falls red. And last night, I saw my own shadow move, without me. It waved. And I swear I saw it smiling. The ice cracked again last night. Louder, closer this time. Not like a lake freezing over. It was rhythmic. Intentional. Like something knocking, from beneath. I haven't seen another villager in 4 days. Talia's cabin is abandoned. The windows smashed from the inside. Her kettle frozen mid-boil. Her coat still on the hook. But she's gone. No footprints in or out. Just red snow leading toward the sea. The journal from 1881 is falling apart, but I keep rereading the same line. Once the hunger knows your name, it can wear your voice. I should have left the moment I saw the red snow. But I didn't. Because I didn't understand. Now it's too late. 2 nights ago, I woke to a sharp knocking on the door. Not wind. Knocking. I called out, nothing. When I finally opened it, there was no one there, but across the snow, I saw someone standing in the dark. Me. Same coat. Same boots. Just, older. Or wrong. Bent. It turned and walked toward the sea. I followed. I knew I shouldn't, but it wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was pull. That's how this thing works. Not with force. With memory. With warmth. It offers pieces of yourself that you don't realize you've already lost. The sea was cracked wide open when I arrived. Not boiling, not cold. Just open. As if the earth had parted willingly. A circle of villagers stood at the edge, heads bowed, arms raised toward the hole. And across from them, on the far side of the breach, stood my double. It turned to face me. No eyes. No mouth. Just a hole where its face should be. A black vortex that hummed like wine through a tunnel. Then it spoke. Not out loud. Inside. To keep the sun away, one must feed the dark. The villagers stepped forward, toward the fissure. One by one, they fell into the ice, silent. No splash. No sound. Just gone. I ran. Again. But something followed. It wasn't footsteps or breath or shadows, just cold. Piercing cold. Inside my chest. And I realized something as I reached my shack. I was no longer breathing steam. I shut the door behind me. But the room was wrong. The table was set. 2 bowls of stew. My journal, open to a page I never wrote. He chose to stay. And in doing so, he made it whole. I screamed. Tore the page out. Burned it. The flames hissed, and turned blue. Then came the voice on the radio again. My voice. Softer. Resigned. Daniel, you've already done this. You're just remembering it now. And suddenly, I did remember. A flash. A night in 1951. A cracked sea. And me, falling. Not resisting. Welcoming. Because I believed it would end the cold. I thought I was saving something. But I was just sealing the deal again. I tore out of the shack and made for the radio tower. It's the highest point in Barrow. I thought maybe, if I sent out one last message. But the tower was twisted. Metal warped like heat had bent it. And written on the snow at the base. Every 70 years. Every time. You choose. I dropped to my knees. The sun should have risen weeks ago. But it hadn't. Because I hadn't let it. Because I wasn't the first Daniel. And I wouldn't be the last. The spirit beneath the ice, it's not a ghost. Not a god. It's a loop. A memory of winter so ancient, so bitter, it learned how to feed itself. On people. On warmth. On names. There's a reason no one ever escapes Barrow. A reason there's no history before 1881. Every 70 years, it starts again. Same red snow. Same outsider. Same whispers. And it ends the same way. One walks into the sea. To keep the sun away. It's snowing again now. Red. My boots are on. My shadow is already waiting outside. And it's smiling. If you find this recording, if somehow the loop broke long enough for it to reach you, Remember, it knows names. It wears faces. It hates the sun. Don't come looking. And if you hear it call you, don't answer. Hey, guys, that's the end of this story. What did you think? Did it creep you out, make you think, or remind you of something strange from your own life? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one and love hearing what you're feeling. If you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe for more eerie tales like this one. Hit that bell so you don't miss the next video, because you never know what's lurking around the corner. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.